Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Neville Goddard podcast. Today we're going to let's try again. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Neville Goddard podcast. My name is Mr. 2020. Today we're going to dive into what matters, and we're going to ignore what doesn't. Remember, your skin has a color. Mine's pink. On the other hand, you are the light of the world. You are the spark behind the eyes. It's time for some attitude. Enjoy the podcast. At the end of the day, your skin has color. And you are the light. At the end of the day, your skin has color, and you are the light of the world. You're the spark behind the eyes. You're the wisdom and the power of God. You can't possibly blame the color of your skin for anything. That's about as silly as blaming your sex. Or your sexual preference, or your sexual identity. It just gets more and more complicated. You know, there's both light-skinned and dark-skinned black people. There's also upper and lower middle-class Mexicans, and they all appear to discriminate against each other except for when they don't. Only you can judge you. Here's what I did growing up. I decided to be a policeman, and I went to school. I paid to put myself through the police academy because that was one of the ways you got ahead. See, I was a white guy, no military, 18 years old, putting myself through the police academy so I could get to the top of the list to get a cop job. And here's the problem. I didn't have boobs, and I was white. Didn't have military either. And that was the thing. Back in Pennsylvania, whenever I was going into all that stuff, if you had military, you got an extra 10 points on the test. If you had boobs, you know, those things that jiggle, I'd like them. Victoria's got nice ones. Yeah, you got 10 extra points because you had something that jiggled. If you had a darker skin color, guess what? You got 10 extra points. And you see, I imagined that mattered. And so that held me back. It wasn't the color of my skin that held me back. It was what I imagined about what mattered. It was about what I imagined about the color of my skin that held me back. Now, here's what's really cool. I ended up working for 3 departments part-time. All right, I managed not to get one cop job, but I managed to get 3 part-time cop jobs. That was the other shortcut. All right, you get a part-time job, and then they'll hire you full-time, you know? So I got 3 part-time jobs. I worked like 60, 80 hours a week, or 4, depending upon how things went that week, right? And so it was crazy, and I couldn't handle it anymore. So I sold out, and I decided I'm going to get me a job as a prison guard. Well, actually, I tried to get on the Pennsylvania State Police, but they told me I can't get in because I don't have military and other things. Right? I scored number 73, I think, on the test. They were hiring 150, and they said you don't have a chance. And that's all right. So I looked at liquor controlment. I looked at corrections, and I got hired by corrections first, so I went there. And when you know, I got beat to death in what we would call a religious race riot. It was the Muslims against everyone else. It was the blacks against the whites, and I got beat to death in that. Revived, came back. You think I still had a chip on my shoulder? You think I still imagined that the color of your skin mattered? You sure bet I did. I was being discriminated against because I was white. Ain't that funny? And so here's the deal, guys. Jimmy Fuller, he thought changing the color of his skin would matter. Neville said, don't bother. You can change what matters. And a lot of people get upset about that because Neville said you can't change the pigment of your skin. I'm going to say, why would you bother changing what doesn't matter? Because you're the light of the world. We've got this thing we call the attitude of Abdullah. I love this. If you don't got it, go get it at NevilleGoddardStore.com. It's the Attitude of Abdullah 2023 version. We did a live call a couple years ago on it. Only Dream-Driven Day members get that. But I decided to do something because I want to unleash this on the world, so I made a recording of the Attitude of Abdullah 2023. And maybe you know, maybe you don't, but Abdullah was a black Ethiopian Jew. Oh my God. And you know, Abdullah being a Jew, Abdullah being black, you think that would hold against him, especially back in like the 40s, the 50s, you know, whenever him and Neville would go to the opera. Abdullah went where he wanted. He did what he wanted, with who he wanted. He had the attitude of Abdullah. He realized that he's the spark behind the eyes. He wasn't at war with other races. He realized that he's the light of the world. Eventually, Neville caught on. Eventually, so did I, and so will you. Maybe you have already. Maybe you have in some areas and some aspects of your life. Second crass commercial, pearlpowerpack.com. Any place where you're struggling, you're blaming bullshit. Why try to change bullshit? Neville Goddard says no one to change but self. And a lot of people, they try to change the bullshit. Don't bother. Buy the pearl. This leads us to the second crass commercial, pearlpowerpack.com. We did 3 live calls because I had over 21,237 emails from people that are stuck. They're blaming what doesn't matter. And once they start exploring the pearl the way we do, their life changes. pearlpowerpack.com. Because here's the cool thing, guys. This stuff has moved me around the world. This stuff has enabled me to build an empire that blesses millions. We've got 3 million listens on the podcast almost. Over 2,000 episodes, 1,000 videos, 1,000 articles. I can't tell you how many Facebook posts or comments. They'd have to be in the tens of thousands now. And some people say, I don't know how you work like you do. And for me, it ain't work. I'm the light of the world. So are you. Let your light shine. See, light just can't, light, you're the light behind it all. And yes, your skin has a color. And guess what? That doesn't matter. I could give you story after story. I gave you a couple already. And here's the thing. You're either going to adopt the attitude of Abdullah, you're either going to buy the pearl where you haven't, or you're not. I didn't for the longest time. It took me getting beat to death. I suggest you don't go that route. If you got gold today, NevilleGoddardStore.com. That's where you can get both of those, the Pearl Power Pack or the Attitude of Abdullah. The Pearl Power Pack has 3 calls, 3 live group calls in it that are recorded for you. That's like 5 hours of goodies. It's awesome. That's all I'm going to say. PearlPowerPack.com. On the other hand, the Attitude of Abdullah, that's a bit shorter. And it just goes into the Attitude of Abdullah. They walk hand in hand. If you're tired of hopping on one leg, get both. Because you need the attitude. And you need to buy the pearl. You need to stop worrying about what doesn't matter. You get to explore what does. Have a lovely day. My name is Mr. 2020. I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you haven't subscribed to us already, subscribe, share, or follow. I so appreciate when people share what we do. Have a great day, gang. Keep diving deeper so you can soar higher. See ya. And remember, your skin has color. Let's face it. Mine's pink. Right? I love pink. On the other hand, you're the light of the world. See ya.